Hello, 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 everyone. It is Teresa from Teresa's Spot for Art, where I love sharing art from my heart and teaching you how to create a little joy in your life through some fun, simple, and quick art projects. Although I will say this one is not so simple. But welcome, welcome, welcome to the Meet Me in Capri art tutorial. So this is what we will be painting. I will move it. I may have to reference it, but I will move it. I have my 11 by 14 tracer, my graphite paper, my paint, and I am ready to go. So I'm going to switch you guys around. There we go. Okay. I have out my paints. Now this called for quite a few colors. If you don't have all the colors, if you don't have all the same colors, don't fret, make it your own. It is totally fine. I do not want people to get jammed up when they don't have the exact same supplies as somebody suggests or uses. You know what? It's more about um the experience than it is about the art. But you will like your art when we're done. So I have taken my tracer. This one for the 11 by 14 comes in 4 sheets. I've taped it all together, lined it all up. I used one piece of tape to tape it to my canvas. And then I have slipped a piece of graphite paper, shiny side down, in between. Now I'm going to tell you guys a trick. If you're just starting, that's great. If you haven't traced on your tracer yet, that's even better. Because I'm not going to trace this whole entire thing. No, 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 no. So let me show you. We're going to start here. And if you want a ruler, it's totally fine. We're going to start here with our horizon. Your horizon line should be fairly straight. Okay. If you want a ruler for it, go ahead. I'm not using one, but a horizon line on a painting should always be fairly straight. Now I'm just going to add in the mountains. I'm going to make sure that if I'm going through a couple of pieces of paper here, it's going through. Okay. Next up, I'm going to do the face of my cliff. Now it's curvy, it goes in and out. Am I being exact? No. Coming down here, you're gonna come out to the end, and I'm doing in all this land here. It comes in, and it pretty much goes off here. I'm going to do the next line here, which is in between the face and what would be considered the top, where we're going to add the greenery. All right. I'm going to put this line in here where it kind of splits off and you have this higher cliff and then this lower cliff. And I'm going to do the same thing here with the bottom portion of where our greenery ends. And then we have another sort of line in here, splitting up the bottom of the cliff. Moving on to the other side, our land comes out like this. And this is the only thing we're putting on this side. If you've done the trees already, that's fine. We're just adding in the land. I'm going to keep my hand here nice and tight, and I'm going to lift up and make sure I have what I need. Yep. Make this a little darker here. And then I don't want to forget to put in these rocks that are out here in, I guess it's the Mediterranean, right? I know Capri is off of Italy. Just keeping a firm hand on here because it's very hard to place back down. And that is it. So now I'm going to pull up my tracer and put it to the side, hold this up. Okay, I'm going to grab a pencil too. I want these lines here to be a little bit darker. All right, I have my horizon line, my mountain range. If you wanted to, you could even grab a Sharpie and go over your islands with a Sharpie, if that's going to help you be able to see them, because we're going to paint right over them with our water, or right up to them. If we get on them, it's okay, it's fine. Okay, so I have my mountains, my horizon line, my cliff face, and then the bottom piece of land. Okay. And I'm going to get out this metallic blue. If you don't have the metallic blue, you have a different blue, that is fine. It is up to you. So I'm going to get out some of this metallic blue and some white. Now we have 3 different blues going on here. We have our sky, we have our mountains, and then we have our water. And we're just going to change our blue up depending on how much white we put into it. Okay, I'm going to turn my art to the side. This way, I can pull and push my water lines and my sky lines. I feel it sometimes when we paint horizontal, our arm automatically windshield wipes. You know what I mean? It's like curving, and it's very hard to make it just go back and forth. So I'm going to turn mine, and this way, if I paint like this, I have a better chance of my lines just being straight and horizontal and not curving. Okay, so I'm going to load my brush with white. I want to put a little pressure on my brush. I want to make sure that all the fibers in my brush become very neat and compact. If your brush does not do this, it is not a good brush. If it continues to be like this, put this brush in your multimedia pile, in the garbage, use it for base coating, whatever. You want your brush, as soon as it gets wet, has some paint, it comes together. You want to be able to control the fibers of your brush. I'm putting a little bit of pressure on my brush, getting paint up in there. And then I'm just going to come over here and put some blue with it. Okay, and we will decide how light or dark we need it. Okay, and I am just now going to pick up white. I want to get my line in here from my mountain range. I'm kind of outlining it so I know where my mountains go. I'm going to put a line here so I know where the face of my cliff is. And then I'm just going to pick up white. So I have the white in my brush. I added some blue to it, but now I'm only picking up white because up here, we want our sky to be more on the white side. If your sky is way too blue, just get more white. It's totally okay. And get as close to my cliff side here as I can. If you need to get in and around your mountain range, it's okay to do some little quirky brush strokes. But when it comes time to smoothing it out and finishing it all, you want your brush strokes to all be nice and even up here and nice and horizontal for your sky. Sometimes we have to get in the little nooks and crannies, and we may paint a little differently with our brush to get in and out. But when all is said and done, you want to come back over and you want to make sure all your strokes are nice and horizontal. I too am even, sorry, I was off a little bit, painting the edges. I don't think I need my lazy Susie. Sorry, Susie's for tonight. Okay. So the trick to blending is to make sure that the paint on your brush and the paint on your canvas, surface, whatever, are wet. Okay, so there I have my sky. Okay, I'm just going to add a tiny, tiny bit of blue to my brush. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to start painting in my mountain range. I picked up the tiniest bit of blue the corner of my brush, and I'm coming in here to do my mountains. My brush was still dirty from the sky with the white and the blue. I don't want my mountains too dark, but like I said, we're going to have 3 different variations of blue between our mountain range, our sky, and our water. Okay. I'm going to wipe my brush off a little bit, and I'm going to go back into my white, and I'm just going to dab in. I'm lightly using the chisel edge of my brush. I'm moving up and down, up, up, and down, and adding in some clouds up there. Literally, my brush is standing up. I'm pulling it along the blue. I'm moving up a little bit. Almost like that game Frogger, where you have to get in and out of the curves. And there we go. We have some clouds up there. And now I'm just going to go and pick up all blue. Not washing my brush. Just picking up the blue. And again, I want to have this nice line here so I know. Kind of helps my eye know where it needs to be. If at this point to go around the islands, the rocks, you need to switch brushes, that is totally fine. You can pick up a smaller flat brush or the round brush that you have for this project. Totally up to you. And now I'm going in. Again, I want this line. And I am adding in all this beautiful electric blue, going around my sides again. You can paint your sides, you can leave your sides, totally up to you. You can wait and do them after and do them all one color. Again, totally up to you. I'm going to get out a little bit of this paradise green. If you have like a Bahama blue or a teal or a patina or something, that will work just as well. We just want to add some variation to the water in the middle here. Just gives the idea that there's different depths of water. If you get some on your rocks, it is okay. That's why I said if you need to switch brushes, you can. If you get some on your rocks, it's okay. Don't worry about it. It's acrylic paint. We can fix anything. So it's going to come into here. I like to outline. I paint the way I color. This way, I kind of can keep my eyes, my brush, my control in where I need to be when I'm color blocking. So with my wet brush, I'm just going to pick up a little bit of this green, and I'm going to start blending in some green right here in this part of our water. I went over my island, where it jutted out, that's okay. And I'm going to mix the green up, and I'm going to mix it down. I'm going to swish up, and I'm going to swish down. I'm going to come closer to the land and come back out. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to my blue. Again, I want to come around here. Now this painting is a little bit challenging. The most important thing you have to remember about this painting is that it is abstract. It's not from a photograph. It's not going to be like a photograph. Our cliff, our bushes, our homes, our trees are all very abstract. You can see by mine, okay? Not a lot of definition, a lot of multicolor, a lot of shading and highlighting, but abstract, okay? And that's fine. I just don't want you to be judging your painting as we proceed, okay? We have a lot of steps to go through. We have a lot of shading, we have a lot of highlighting, we have a lot of color to add, and no judging your paintings until the end. And then even still, you have to be proud of what you accomplished. Okay? Not judgy. Try not to be judgy. We can be our own worst critics, and it shouldn't be like that. Okay, so I'm just finishing up my water here. It goes off the edge, but we're going to have so many bushes and plants and flowers in here, it's not going to matter. So I have my sky, I have my mountain range, I have my water, we have a little bit of clouds. I'm just making sure that everything's blended. Mine is nice and still wet. And there we go. Like I said, when you need to fill in spaces, it's okay if you want to put your brush any which way you can. But then when it comes down to being finished, you want to try and make your brush strokes go the way of the element or all the same to match. Okay. Okay. Now I am going to wash my brush. Okay. I like to give my brush a nice squeeze, get the water out. Now I'm going to put out some of this really light color. It is called I think this is not the coral shell, is it? No, it is the sugared peach. There we go. The sugared peach. Okay, put out a decent amount and go back to my same brush. I'm going to load it up and come back in here, and we're going to do all the cliff faces and the land. Again, if you get outside the line, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm doing this in sections so I can continue to see where one cliff ends and the other one starts. So we'll be putting some dark shading and some bright highlighting in there. Come down in here. And then come down in here. Want to be able to see these lines. And I'm going to go over the blue that I painted in here on accident. And then I'm just going to come around with this land color. Such a pretty color. This is our sugared peach. And then I just want to make sure that all my strokes, again, are neat and tidy and going vertical. Okay, leave that there. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to come in, outline my water, so I can pay attention to where my land is and where my water is. And I'm just using the big brush, and I'm just coming in here with vertical strokes. Now we are just doing all of the base coating. You might look and be like, oh, but don't get jammed up yet. Don't worry. We have lots of steps. Your painting will change. If you have something and you're like, oh no, I messed up. You can't really mess up. Believe me, trust me, you can't really mess up. We're going to be adding so much. You're not going to see it. It's going to be covered up. Nobody's going to know. You'll know, but that's okay. I'm just coming in here with the edge of my brush and filling in this bottom part. And I'm going to paint my sides. Now, if you don't want to paint your sides, You don't have to. You can paint your sides all one color when you're done. You can leave your sides and not paint them at all. Or you can wrap them around with the same color as the face of the canvas like I'm doing. It is totally up to you. It's your art, no rules, don't worry. Okay, now I'm just gonna fix my strokes a little bit. And then I am gonna switch brushes. I'm gonna pick up this smaller round brush. I'm gonna come in here and do my little rocks. It's okay if you can still see your pencil marks or your Sharpie if you did your islands, your rocks in Sharpie, because that's just going to add to the shading when we get to that part. So if you can still see where you did your Sharpie or your outlining, don't worry. We're going to take care of that. Okay. So a little bit of a glare. This is all going to be foliage. The base coated in our rocks, our land over here in the front, and then our cliff face. This is where I went over with my blue, so I'm just going to come back in here with a little bit more of the light color to fill that in. Okay, and I'm going to wash my little round brush. Okay, now I am going to get out this darker color. This is the coral shell. Again, it is a very light peach. If you have a different color, that's fine. This is what it looks like. This is what it looks like. If you don't have the exact, that's fine. If you have orange and you want to completely lighten it up with white, that'll work too. It's really okay. I'm gonna go back to the little round brush that I have. It's actually a medium round brush. I shouldn't say it's little. It's actually a medium round brush. Okay. And I'm going to pick up this darker color. And I'm just going to start. See how I'm doing that? Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. I'm just going to wiggle in shapes. Literally. Vertical, abstract shapes. You can do it exactly like it shows on the reference photo. You can do it exactly like I'm doing it here, or you can put them wherever you want. Say you got a little bit of paint somewhere that you didn't like it, perfect place to put some shading. Okay, come down in here. But as you work your way down, you want it all to be up and down. So I'm continuously moving my brush. These are vertical strokes. I'm continuously moving my brush up and down. Skipping spots. Come in here. Move across. On the face here. Very abstract and random. I'm going to come in a little bit under here. Okay, and then we even want to add some over here to our rocks. Not too much. And on the rocks, I'm putting them all on one side because presumably this is shading. So we want it all to the one side. If you started doing your shading to the left of the rocks, do it on the left of the rocks. I did mine on the right, so it's on the right on all my rocks. Okay. Now I'm going to wash my brush. Again, I'm going to give it a nice rinse. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but this time with white. If you need fresh white, or you need to go to a different section of your white because you have blue in it, that's fine. I'm going to use this round brush and dip into the white. And now we're adding highlights where the sun is bouncing off the face of the cliff. Again, nothing perfect about them. Random. You can do them exactly where they are on the reference photo. You can do them exactly where I'm doing them, or you can just do them where you think they should go. Or, like I said before, to cover up maybe something where you dropped your brush, you slipped, you spilled some blue paint, whatever. But as I do them, I'm going up and down, up and down. I'm going to come right in here underneath where this is going to be the greenery. And I'm moving my brush up and down. And here, up in here, underneath where we're going to have greenery. Okay. Under here is my line where the one cliff juts out and separates from the other. Okay. And then the same thing here, we want to put a little bit of white, not too much, on the opposite side of the shading on our rocks. I know it's hard for you to see that, but I'm just adding a little bit of white on the opposite side. Put a little bit here. Okay. And the only difference with our white is we're going to add some in here too. Again, I'm going up and down, not too much. A lot of this is going to be covered. You're not even going to see it, but we just want some highlights in here as well. Okay. And that is it. That is it. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to switch to my liner brush and some black. If you need to catch up and pause the video at this point, go right ahead until you're to this part to add the trees. And then we will place, when you're ready, you can come back and hit play, and we will place the trees where they need to be. I have got my liner brush, some black paint, and I'm just going to twirl my liner. Now you can use the round brush that you have as long as you only use it on the point and use very light pressure, or you can use a liner brush. It's up to you. And literally out in the middle of nowhere, I'm going to now paint a tree trunk in here up to the sky. Okay. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to paint another one. We don't want these to be straight as a board. We want them to have a little curve. We want to put in some other little branches. Okay. Then I'm going to come down here. I'm going to do the same thing. And we want this one to come out over the water. Now this is going to mean our trees are going to be big and bright and the focal point right front and center of our art. When we do the branches, we want to do a few little Ys off of them. Okay. Then I'm going to do the same thing down here in the middle, up and over the water a little bit. a nice grouping down here. I can cross the branches a little bit out to the side. Okay. And then we're just going to have a couple over here in the corner. Okay. You're probably going, oh my God, what the heck? No, no, no. It is all okay. It is good. It is good. Trust me. Okay. I would not steer you wrong. I'm going to wash my brush. Now I'm going to get out my dark green. Now for the dark green, for the foliage, I'll get out my light green too while we're at it. You can continue using the round brush, the medium round brush that we had, or you can use a flat brush, not this big giant one we use for the background, but a smaller one. It's totally up to you. Okay. So I'm going to use my liner brush. Let me grab a piece of scrap. I'm just going to grab the back of my tracer here because I want to show you guys this first. Let me get a fake tree for you. Okay, there we go. We are literally going to go into our dark green. We're going to load it up with paint. I'm putting a little bit of pressure. I'm flaring out my fibers so they open up and accept the paint. Okay, and then we're going to come back in here and we're going to start dabbing. We're almost like dabbing, almost like horizontally, so we get longer dabs. We don't want to do polka dots. We want to dab on the flat. If your black is wet and you pick up some black, that's okay. Okay. So I'm going to start up here, pick up some green, and I'm going to start dabbing. We don't want to fully cover in. We want to be able to see some sky. We're dabbing over the tree trunks. The only difference is when I come to this side, I want to change my brush. So the dabs of my round brush face out. Okay. On this side, they're up there. And then on this side, they're this way. And we're just going to not be uniform, but dab in the dark underbrush of our trees. Okay. I have picked up a little bit of black here. That's okay. It just adds to the shading. We're even going to stick another tree up in here. This one is coming from the side. It didn't need a trunk. All you can see is a portion of the top. And again, I'm dabbing, but when I come to this side, I want to turn my brush. So that then is the side of my brush that has the end, has the rounded end. Okay, again, we want to be able to see a little bit through there, not too much. I'm going to start working on this grouping down here. You can go as far around your canvas as you want. You want to have a few coming down off the smaller branches. And I'm just dabbing away. You can get very carried away with this. Probably if you weren't listening to me, it would be very relaxing. Well, it might be relaxing anyway, but you can just, if you wanted to repaint this, I'm going to turn this again so my brush is facing this way. You could just put on some nice music or audiobook and just dab away. or maybe you like some peace and quiet. It's up to you. And again, some of my black is still wet in here, and that's okay. It just adds to the shading. Now you can see there's no particular shape to these trees. They're just wide, and we want to make sure that they cover the tree trunks. Right, again, I'm going to turn it because on this side, I want this end of my brush. Make a few down here. And I'm just going to keep dabbing away. With my dark green paint. You do as much coverage as you want, but again, I suggest not completely covering everything up. You want to be able to see branches, you want to be able to see land, you want to be able to see tree trunk. You want to be able to see the water. And don't forget, I'm using my brush a little bit on the horizontal side. We don't want to be tap, tap, tapping polka dots. We want our taps to be a little bit more full. Okay? Down the branches just a little bit. Although we're not going to see a lot of this because I'll show you. Okay, now we're going to come in along the bottom and quite unevenly, we were going to start tapping in some dark green foliage down here on the bottom. Goes up and down. Maybe there's a little bit of a break. And then it goes back up in here. All right. And again, I have that little snaky line going there. And now I'm going to come back and tap, tap, tap in to fill everything in. Now I'm not going to completely go around the bottom, but I do want the edge. So I'm not repainting the bottom green, but I do want this edge here to be green. I don't want to be able to see any of that. What was it? In my case, sugar peach. So I want to make sure that this edge is covered, but I'm not going to go down and repaint the entire bottom edge. You can, of my painting. Okay. And I'm just tapping in. Again, using my brush on the flat. And getting in nice coverage down here. More coverage down here than we did on the trees. We want full coverage down here. On the trees, we wanted to see land and the water and the tree trunks. Down here, we want full coverage. Come around the side a little bit. And there we go. We tapped in all our foliage on the bottom. Okay. Again, with our dark green, I'm going to need a little more of it. We're going to do the entire top of our cliff, because up here is the mountainside. That's our cliff face. And here is where we have all this lush foliage. Now, if you did your tracer before I hopped on, or you put on the video, just go right over the houses. It is totally okay. If you want to tap around them a little bit, so you sort of remember where they were, that's okay. But if they don't go back exactly where they were from the tracer, that is fine too. And I'm just going in and I'm doing all the outline first. Remember, I paint like I color, and I like to do the outline first. This way it helps guide my eye where my eye needs to be. Now, in this case, I didn't paint any of this edge because I knew I was coming back in here with the green. I'm not even going to give it a hard pass. I'm just going to tap in here, and that's it. Okay. So back to my dark green, and I'm just tapping. And naturally, as you run out of paint, some areas will be lighter and some areas will be darker. And that is totally okay. This green I'm using is called Lush. If you have a different green, Thicket, House of Dark, Avocado, any of those greens will work. And see, I'm using my brush, not up and down like this, but more on the flat. My paint is almost looking textured and different colors. Don't worry if you're going, ew, what's going on? Again, you guys, very abstract painting. It will all come together at the end. You will see, I promise. Just filling this all in. Okay. Now, while we still have our dark green, I'm going to come up here to this ledge, and I'm going to add a little bit of darkness and foliage in here as well. Nothing even. We're going to add little sections up in here. We have some foliage growing out of the side of our cliff. It's very random. Okay. I'm basically just touching and smoothing my brush along. Again, we have this section here with different levels of cliff, and I'm just going to go right along there and then up here a little bit, maybe some down here, a little bit in there. Okay. Okay, I'm going to wash my brush. Now, while we're waiting for some of our green to dry a little bit, I'm going to go back to my liner brush, and we're going to add our sailboats. Now, this is totally optional for you guys. You do not have to add sailboats. Again, they are very abstract. Totally up to you if you want to add them or not. We're going to put them in here in the shallow part of our water where we had our green. I'm going to use my white liner brush, and let me dry it off a little better. We're going to make a little bit of a curved line and a triangle, and another one, a little bit of a curved line and a triangle. Okay, then we're going to fill this in. I'm just using little tiny short strokes with my liner brush. Fill in our sails. Okay. Then we're going to add the little boat part. And again, nothing perfect about this. And some waves. And then the little boat part here. The boat part is just basically a smiley face. And again, abstract. That's it. Abstract. Okay. If you want to leave your sailboats out, that is fine too. Okay, and I'm gonna go back to my round brush. Give it a nice dry. Take a sip of water. Remind you guys not to judge your painting. It's abstract and it's okay and it's going to be gorgeous. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing that we did with the dark, with the light. And we're going to go in and add all our light green. Okay, so I'm going to load my brush with this light green paint. In this case, I think it's matcha. Yep, it's matcha. It's got a little yellow, a little brightness to it. And we're going to come in here and we're going to start tapping in the tops of our trees. We're going to overlap a little bit and then add totally bright green leaves. You don't want to overlap. You don't want to cover too much, but you do want to see some overlap from the dark to the light. Again, turning it so I can use my brush facing that way to do this side. Have a couple down in here, but then come up in here and add a total bright layer. Oops, sorry, of this green. Again, you don't want full coverage, but you do want the top of the tree to just be soaking up that sun. Ooh. Same thing for this one. This one is coming from the land off to the side. It's important on this one that you cover in this tree trunk. So you want your tree top to be as high as it needs to be to set those trees back behind it, because you don't really see where they originate. Again, I'm going to turn this to the side a little bit so I can use my brush on the side with the ends facing out that way and just dab in here the bright part of my tree. But being careful to still see some lightness through there, some water. And we're going to move down now to this one, overlap a little bit, but then work our way up. In this case, I'm going to even be covering up a little bit of my sailboat, which is fine. Sailboat's way out there in the water, and these trees are all the way up here up front. I want to cover a little bit of the dark and then bring out the light. And I'm just tapping away here. If you need to come down in here a little bit, because you don't want a really harsh line. I mean, over here I have a little bit, so let me come down. You don't want a real harsh line between the shaded area and the sunny area. So I just looked up here and I saw it. See? It takes steps. It takes time. You have to look and go back and evaluate and look and go back. Okay. And I'm just going to continue tapping in here with my light paint, adding into my treetops, coming down here into my darkness a little bit, and tapping away. Again, I didn't turn my whole thing, but I am using my brush facing out to the right. So then that is the edge of my brush and my bristles facing out that way. Even with all this tapping and this thick paint, it's almost like textured. It's still amazing how you don't really use a ton of paint. I know a lot of times people think, oh, is it going to be enough paint? Is it going to be enough paint? And then it really is, because maybe you use like the size of a quarter. This is 11 by 14 canvas. And I already painted that 16 by 20. This was a new bottle of paint. And there's plenty of paint. Again, you don't want it too harsh of a line. You want to make it a little uneven there. Okay. And then we want to add highlight in here along the bottom. Again, a lot of this is going to be covered. We still have to add in those beautiful, beautiful, vibrant pink flowers. You don't want it to look like just a straight line. So you want some of it to be thicker and some of it to be thinner. And I'm just tapping in using my brush on the flat, but using the edge of it. I'm doing this. Do you see that? With my brush at a 45, picking up a little bit of green and just tapping it up and down, making some areas thicker and thinner, just so the tops of these bushes down here, or these trees down here, are getting the sunlight. Some areas have more, some areas have less. And like I said, we still have to add our flowers, and they're going to be really vibrant. Okay, so we did the tops of all our trees. Now I need a little bit more again. We're going to add highlight up in here to our mountaintop. Okay, so I want to come in here. I want to follow the curve basically. So again, I'm tapping to following the main shape, but not completely covering. We want to leave the dark green edge. Okay. And then up here, we want to come above onto our sky a little bit, because then that'll look really light. We're tapping in on the dark line, but going into our sky a little bit. And then I'm just going to come back in here and I'm going to fill in again and redo what we did. If your green is still a little wet, it's okay. You're going to mix. You're going to have different variations, and that is totally fine. If your green is really, really wet and your light is becoming dark, I want you to hit pause, grab a hair dryer, or go get a snack, a cup of tea, a beverage, wait for it to dry, and come back. It's okay if it's a little damp and you're getting a little bit of mixing and blending, but you don't want your light to become completely and totally dark, because your first coat with your dark green was way too wet. Okay. And we're just doing the same tapping motion. And we're filling all of this in. I followed the curve, but it shouldn't be a straight line. It shouldn't be perfect. It should be imperfect and tapped. There are some spots where I tapped less. There's some spots where I tapped more. There's some where my dark green was wet. And that's all okay. You want different variations of this light green. I'm gonna wash my brush. Now you could stick with this round brush, or you can get your liner brush. It's totally up to you. I'm gonna pick up a little bit of black, and I'm just tiny bit, tiny bit. Mm. And I'm just gonna come in here, and I'm gonna tap in tiny bit up and under my tree, just to make a little bit of shading. So where the under part, and if you pick up too much, just go get some green and go back over it. Just to have a little bit of shading in there. So I will pick up the black. I will wipe the black off. And then I'm hardly even touching my canvas. If I think I got too much, I'll go back and I'll mix some green with it. And you just want to have in, and I'm actually, it's like when you're bothering someone and you just poke. That's all I'm doing. I'm poking in. Let's pick up a little bit more black, tap it off. I'm poking in up and under. Get some green on there where my dark meets my light. Doesn't have to be even Steven. You're just adding in some shading. You can hear it's almost a dry brush scraping across the canvas here. Pick up a little bit more. Again, and don't worry, if you get too much black, just pick up some green and fix it. Pick up here, maybe it's a little too dark up here. I'll get a little green on the tip of my brush, rub it into the black. It softens it right up. We are going to do the same thing along the cliff edge, only this time I am going to mix my black and green. So I'm over here and I'm just taking my black down a little bit with some green. Okay, I still want to keep my brush fairly dry. Pick it up and wipe it off. I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to come in here and I'm just scrubbing in, following this outline. See how I'm like pushing back and forth like that with the edge of my brush. Pick up some paint, wipe it off. And I'm pushing in back and forth with my brush. Okay, pick up some paint, wipe it off. A little bit more. And again, if you get too much, go back to your green again. Okay. Have just that nice little shaded area. A little bit of shaded area under our trees. And there we go. All right, I'm gonna wash my brush. Now we are gonna get our liner brush. And now, you guys, we are gonna start adding in the details and you are going to see your painting, okay? And we're moving on to now the details. So I have my liner brush. When we use our liner brush, we want to turn it in our paint. So we want a nice point on our liner. Okay. Then I'm going to come to the canvas. If you need to practice on your palette, on your tablecloth, whatever it is, practice doing little like hairline strokes. Okay. Takes a very soft touch. And we just don't want to put your hand in the paint, but we're going to come in here and we're just going to start adding in some little hairline strokes, adding some shading to our cliff front. You don't want to do too much. Then we're going to take it here and we're going to, where our cliff here, I'm just pulling along, I'm breaking it up and making a little shaded line there so you can see the difference between the top part of our cliff and the bottom. I'm going to do the same thing down here where it splits. You don't want to draw one big, thick, stark line. I'm breaking it up and I'm just lightly touching the canvas and pulling it along. And do the same thing down here at the water's edge. I'm just using the tip of the brush. Some of it's thicker, some of it's thinner. And I'm just going around. Adding to our cliff face here.
Hey, Gavin.
Some here.
Go back and change your clothes and then I'll be around. So that we could go to the line.
Down underneath this part of the area. And it's very, very light. It's not a straight line. You can see it's very jumbly and wavy, thicker, thinner, and not really connecting. Again, down the face. And then maybe a little bit here. Okay. Then this is why I said before it didn't matter. It was okay if you could still see your Sharpie from the rock. Because we're going to roughly outline these rocks as well. So if you have your Sharpie there, it's okay. You can trace it. And then I'm going to put a little bit of line here for the cracks in the rock, making them a little jagged. And again, very soft touch. No straight lines. Tip of the brush. And a little crevice. And then the same thing for this little guy. Okay. Okay. Now my green is still a little wet, so I am going to, in fact, grab my dryer. So don't mind me for 1 second. We're going to add our houses and we want our greenery up here to be completely dry when we add our houses. This is a heat gun, but you can use your a hair dryer, or you can, this would be a good time if you're watching this on the recording, to take a short break hit the pause button, go to the bathroom, get yourself a drink, have a snack, whatever it is, wait for your painting to dry, and then come back. Now, when we do our houses, you can look at the reference photo and you can put them exactly where they are on the image, or you can put one or two houses somewhere to cover something up. Again, if you dropped your brush, or there was a little area you didn't like, or maybe you wanted your houses more along the edge of the cliff, it is totally up to you. I'm going to do, I think, 7 houses. We're going to make them different sizes, but they're all going to be pretty much rectangular or square. I'm going to go back to my first brush, but you can use whichever brush you're comfortable with. You can use the round brush too. I'm going to go back to my larger flat brush that I had at the beginning. If you need fresh white, get out some fresh white. And again, these are abstract, little mountain Mediterranean homes. I'm going to get fresh white. Make sure I have a decent amount on my brush. And then we're just going to put in some little squares and rectangles. So we're going to put one up here. Put one in here. One down here. One here. I turned my brush a little bit because I want this one to be smaller, so I don't want to use the whole brush. So I'm just using the corner of my brush to draw a little bit smaller of a rectangle. We'll do one up in here. Maybe we'll put another little one up here in the distance on the top. Again, I'm just using the corner of my brush and the white paint. That's 6, so I want an odd number. So put another little one down here. Okay, I'm gonna wash my brush. Okay. Now we're gonna go back to our, what was this? Coral shell that we used for the shading on our mountain face. I'm going to use my liner brush, but this time I want it to be a little thicker, so I'm going to have a little bit more pressure. And I'm going to come in here, I'm just adding the rooftop to all of my homes. You can make it a little bit of a triangle if you wanted. You can make it a little bit of a flat roof. It can cover the white a little bit. But again, abstract. These are just little mountain seaside homes tucked in to the greenery on the side of this cliff. Okay. So we have our rooms. And I'm going to wash my brush again. I'm going to go into the black. And I'm going to add one little shaded line to the left side of all my houses. Okay. I'm going to grab the black on my liner brush. And I'm just going to add in some windows. Now this one's a little bigger. So maybe I'll add in a few windows. Maybe that's a hotel up there. Maybe a door, a couple of windows and a door, and maybe just a couple of windows. And I'm just lightly dabbing in here with the tip of my brush. Nothing perfect about them. Okay. This one up here, my black ran a little bit. I don't know if you can see. See, I tell you, we're our own worst enemies. See, I have a little bit of that drip in there. I don't like that. So I'm just going to clean my brush. I'm going to come back in here with an empty brush. And I'm just going to pick it up. Now it's gone. I'm not even going to repaint it with the white. I just picked up that little drippy black with a clean brush that didn't have any paint in it. Now we're going to go back to our round brush again. I'm going to get some fresh white, but I almost want to brush it off again. So pick up the white, brush it off. And I want to come in here and just dab in some sunlight. It's almost dry, and I'm just dabbing in some brightness. Not too much, pick up, brush off, and then come in here and dab in some white just to brighten up. So I'm going to pick up white, brush it off. I don't want to cover up my green. I just want to add a little brightness to the tops of my trees. After I pick up the paint, then I wipe it off. I'm not even doing the whole green. I'm just doing little parts of it where I think the sun will hit. And not even complete white. My brush is practically dry. And now, dun, 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 we're going to come to this beautiful bottom part here with all these beautiful flowers. Okay. I'm going to get out this pink. This is called dragon fruit. It is a very bright, vibrant pink. You can use magenta if you have it. Strawberry, wild berry. You just want something very vibrant and bright and contrasting with everything else that's going on here. So I cleaned my round brush. Oops, I dried it off really well. I like to give it a squeeze in the paper towel. And we are going to pick up some of this bright pink on our brush. Again, want to tap it a little bit. You want your fibers to flare out. You want to make sure you have a decent amount of paint all up in your brush. Okay. And we are going to start tapping again. So we are going to tap in between the trees and the land and the bushes. So I'm going to come in here and tap. And this time I'm going to come around the edge a little bit. We're setting our trees back behind the bushes. I'm going to tap along my bush line, up my trunk a little bit, and tapping in here using my brush on the flat, not up and down on the point, on the flat, so it's a little bit thicker, and tapping in here with this beautiful, vibrant dragon fruit. Nice accent to all the green and the beige that we have going on. And you want this at different heights and levels as well. So it's going to come in here along bottom. You just want to remember to not have harsh straight lines. You want uneven, jagged lines. It's foliage, it's out in the wild, in nature. I keep looking up at my sample. So I can basically, obviously I can't paint something exactly the same, but I think it helps if it's mostly the same, especially for you guys to follow along. And I'm just using my brush on the side. So get bigger tap. I'm going to come in here. I want to add some in here from off the side. Down the side, up under here. I don't want to completely cover these trees, but we want them coming in from the corner. And I'm just layering in this paint. Now I'm just going back where I have my tree stumps, tree trunks, and I'm just adding another layer of paint in there, just so they're covered up. I'm also going to do the same thing up here because I can see my water. And although we want to see our water through our trees, I want my bush to cover up the water. Okay. You have that beautiful line down there. I'm just going to wipe off my brush a little bit. And I'm going to put out some of this electric pink. You can use baby pink. You can use the dragon fruit that we've been using and just add some white to it. I'm not even going to clean my brush. And I don't want my dragon fruit to be totally dry because I want this brightness to blend in. So I'm adding in my electric pink. And I want it to blend in a little bit to the edge of my dragon fruit, brightening it up. This is where the sun is hitting. Again, like we did with the light green over the dark green for the trees. We're doing the same thing here with this light electric pink. We don't want it too straight of a line. It's going to be thicker in some places, but all along the top, we want to be seeing where the sun hits these beautiful flowers. And I'm just dabbing, dabbing, dabbing. I didn't even clean my brush after the dragon fruit. Some spots are narrow, some spots are thicker. And I'm just tapping in some of this light pink. In this case, it's electric pink. But you could mix white with your dragon fruit, or you could use baby pink. Whatever you want. Okay. Now I'm going to go back and I'm just going to add a little bit more in certain areas that is not mixing and is just completely pink. I'm just layering it on top to have different variations. See how now we have all this variation going on in here with our colors. Not the whole thing, but just in certain spots. And then I'm going to wash my brush. Okay. And then last but not least, we're going to do the same thing with the white. So again, if your white is contaminated at this point, and you need some fresh white, go ahead and put a little tiny bit out. I still have this other side of my white that I'm working with. Again, I'm going to pick up white, but I'm going to wipe it off on my plate. And I'm just going to come in here and add in just a little bit of white. It up, wipe it off. A little bit of white. My pink is a little wet, so it's blending. And I'm just adding a little bit of white. Highlights. In some areas. Not all of them, just some of them. Okay. And then I'm going to show you a trick. We're going to go back to our liner brush with our black. And we're going to give our flowers some stems. So I'm going to use my thumb and pointer. I get some black on my liner brush. Again, if you need to practice light touches, use some scrap paper, your palette, your tablecloth, not your good tablecloth, the tablecloth, your table protector that you're using for your paint. You just want some light strokes. And I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to start adding in these little tiny stems. It's like underneath. They're just the branches that these bushes are growing on, these beautiful floral bushes. Very light touch. And when we add branches, we want them to go off in a Y. These up here are a little bit longer because this one is coming up the side. Maybe it has a couple little extra branches. And that is it. My brush is in the water. Now you can sign your painting if you want. I have gotten into the habit because I get confused. I will either use my brush or put my finger in each of the colors of paint. I'll turn over my canvas and I'll put my finger in white, wipe it off, put it in black, wipe it off, put it in the blue. This way, if I don't remember exactly the colors I used, I have some form of reference. I have to get more of that one for them on the back of my, need more green. I'll do my pinks. And I just need a little bit more green and a little bit more of the sugar peach that we use for the cliffs. So I'll put the sugar peach. And then my light green, which is matcha. There we go. Mix that in. So now on the back of my artwork, It's all the colors that I used for this painting. Turn it around. And here we go. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed painting with me, and I will see you soon.